And I know there's a couple of new people here. There's, there's some people that have been with us, some veterans with us for a while, and you guys have probably heard this, before. However, I really just want you guys to, pick out the things that you might have not heard the last time around, and just, again, try to make it more easier now that you've heard it and you've understood it, and now relay it again and just be able to transact with it, right? So I want to just give a quick brief rundown in terms of what these candles are really telling you, right? So when you look at a candle, right, the body is just the entire the colored in spot, right? So the body, right, for the red candle, as you can see, it opened up here and it closed down here. And if you want, this is trading view. You guys, y'all should really jump in on this, because this is where, it's really easy to just do the layout and do the technical work and understand, right, the technicality of things. But as you can see on the right, we have the price. And as you can see, price goes lower as, right, as it is open here and it closes down here. And you can see price goes lower. So that's the body of it. And these little why it's called the candle, right, is because they have these little lines that come out of it. And essentially what these are called is called wicks, just like on a candle, right? They're called wicks. And what relatively that's telling you is that price went as high as here, and it also went as low as here. However, price only really stayed within this area, right? Because it closed here. Then we have on the next candle, and just so you guys know, this is on the hourly. So every single one of these candles represents an hour. As you guys saw, right? It was red because it closed down here. Then on the other side, we opened up here, and since it's green, that means it opened up there and it closed up right here. And then the wicks, of course, it went as high as here, it went as low as here, but essentially price was only in this box, right? So why that's important to understand is just to, be able to see the price and understand that. But the psychology behind it, right, is really what I want to dive deep into. These markets, they were created by people, right? People who understood money, and they constructed this mechanism to basically just not be in your favor, right? Because you think about what has history taught us is that the people with money are the people with power, and the people with power want to remain in power, right? So they'll do anything in their power, money, to stay there. And when you think about that, you think about the stock market, because the stock market is the same concept, is people who have a lot of money that built something to take your money. That's the reality of things, right? That is literally what it is. It's just it's made to manipulate you and also make you feel and think, okay, I'm gonna make money out of this. I'm gonna make a living out of this. This is something that could, help me out. And that's what a lot of traders come in here thinking, right? Because everyone loves to sugarcoat everything in terms of money and how much you can make. And the reality of it is that there really is no reality. It's only what you make it. And this was really created to just deceive and control us, because this is all going against us. You know what I'm saying? None of this was really made for us. It was just made for the elites to keep continually making more and more money. Do you think about Warren Buffett? He's had really, really, really red days. Even though he's one of the more experienced investors, he has had red days, because the people who are taking the money from him, you think about the stock market, you think about, the feds, you think about everyone that just wants a piece of his pie and wants a piece of that money. And there is, and I'm pretty sure you guys know this, there is manipulation in the markets, right? When corporations or just entities that have, institutional money, they will come into these markets and shake people out, just so that all those people can start selling off too and start getting scared and more scared, and eventually get to a place where it's at the bottom. Then those institutions will come right back in and buy it at the very low. And even though you've already sold at a loss, the market came down with it because people were just selling off, people were scared, and that's big money that's coming in to shake you out of the markets. That's why I'm saying there is deception in these markets. There is manipulation in these markets. So you have to be 10 steps ahead of that. You have to be prepared. You have to be ready for any type of incident, right? To happen, any situation to come up. You're supposed to be ready. And I'm going to show you guys how to identify all the tricks that they try to play on us in terms of psychology, right? Because they know how the human mind works. And that's how they're able to make their billions, make their trillions, and sit and just, have their computers running and doing what it does, right? So the first thing that I really want to get and dive deep into is in terms of the psychology behind it is, why do you think these candlesticks are green and red and they're right next to each other? You think about in life, no. And you guys are smart, and I'm pretty sure you guys know that when you go to a restaurant, right? They color the inside a certain color to make you more hungry, right? They either color it red or a dull yellow. These type of colors make you hungry. So colors right off the back give you an emotion. Humans are so easily driven by their emotions. They will make a decision based off of a feeling, off of an emotion, which sometimes is a good thing, right? It just depends on the situation. But when it's dealing with money, you never want to make a decision based off of your emotions. You always want to calculate it, because money are numbers. And the same way you would calculate, anything else in terms of math, you have to do it with money as well. And it has to fit. It has to, be a really good correspondent to what you're thinking, not what you're feeling, right? Not your emotion, not what they're giving you, not what they're feeding you, but what you gather in terms of intel, information, confirmations, and all these variables to then make a very calculated decision. So you also think about in nature, right? There are butterflies that have these crazy patterns on their wings that mimic poisonous spiders, right? So it warns off other animals not to eat that butterfly, because they might think, oh, that butterfly is poisonous. If I eat it, I'm gonna die. Because we've seen other animals that are poisonous with that same color pattern. So they're deceiving as well. And you can see that color, it's a really big thing in terms of how we react psychologically speaking, because we don't think about it subconsciously. Our subconscious is seeing those colors and it's interpreting them into our mind, and when it's seeing it, right, it translates. I'm not going to say we have two brains, but we sort of have two minds, right? That's why you have a left and a right side of your brain. One interprets and the other one perceives it, right? So these two have to conjoin and make a decision based off of what they saw and based off of the information that you have. With these two connecting each other, they make a decision. And if what is given to you is a color and also an emotion or a feeling that you've had before is associated with that color, you will make a decision based off of that. And that's what I'm telling you guys. And that's what I'm basically reprogramming your mind to not think about, right? Because you have to reprogram everything you've ever learned about colors and just psychology and really use it in your favor. Be aware of it. To give more in depth of these colors, green, when you think of green, when people see green, they just feel, they feel happy, they feel alive, they feel just good, right? Green, you think about bushes or green trees and things of that nature, right? Nature, just in general. Then right next to it, you have a red candle. And what does red generally give you? That feeling of fear, of, just something that's not good, fire, burning, whatever, right? It just doesn't have a positive connotation. Whereas the green, obviously, it makes you just feel good. So then for them to put it right next to each other, that just gives you that indication that, okay, yeah, they're trying to play something here. They're doing something here with our psychological minds. They know what they're doing. And People who don't understand this will fall victim to this. They will fall victim to the greed, because the greed is what will continue to always thrive in our society, right? People just want more, want more, want more, wanted to keep going, wanted to keep going up, want more money, want more money. But when the fear hits, they begin to doubt, right? They begin to have that feeling of, oh no, I don't want to lose that much. I'm already giving back gains that I've gained previously. I might as well just get out, right? And what happens when that happens? Then other people start to think the same thing, and it's a domino effect. Be aware of this, of these color technicals. You can then trade with it or against it, but you're not with it. You see what I'm saying? You're not in it. That's not you anymore, because you're seeing this as just colors, right? As just, okay, this is down. That doesn't mean anything for me. It just means it's down. That's it. Even if you're in it, that doesn't mean, oh man, I'm having this connection to it. I feel hopeless. I feel anxious. I have this anxiety. I'm worried. No, 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 no. That's your emotion. That's your feelings. You gotta be stronger than that. That cannot take you. That cannot make you decide what to do. These candles, right? What are they in the shape of? They're in the shape of rectangles and just boxes, right? You think about why did they have it in this specific shape? And I'm gonna tell you guys why. Because again, they're trying to manipulate you. They understand that if they have this in a box, they have you and they can control you. And I'm gonna tell you guys why. Because your entire life, you've you've lived in a box practically. When you're born, where do they put you in? They put you in a crib. What's a crib? A crib's a box. You go to school, you have a desk. Most of the times it's a square. It's just a square desk. And the building is a square in itself. You have a job. You work in a cubicle, right? The office, it's another box, right? You have these large boxes that basically keep you inside of a smaller box. When you die, they put you in a box. You see what I'm saying? You're always going to be in a box for as long as you can know it. You are going to be in a box, and that's why they put these boxes here, to manipulate you, to be able to have you think that you're in here. And that's another thing about this, is that these candles, don't just think about them in terms of price. What I see people, right? These are people inside of here. This is investors. This is people who are stuck, psychologically speaking, in this realm. So again, this is a game of chess, and we have to just be 10, 20 steps ahead of this. And being able to identify it for what it really is and not for what it's trying to tell you, you are then able to make a more rational decision, right? Because are you looking at it as, okay, this is what it's telling me? Or are you looking at it as, this is what I want it to tell me? All right. Now, both of them, again, this is why you have two minds, right? One, I'm looking at this and it's telling me this. That's when you're applying your technical analysis, right? Because you want the trend breakout, or you want the pattern breakout. You want whatever it is that you are able to identify to happen, right? So you are basically projecting on it what you want it to tell you, right? That confirmation. Whereas when you look at it like, what is it really telling you? That's, the psychology behind it. That's understanding that there's investors in here. That's understanding that, this isn't made in our favor. That's understanding that, the colors were meant for a reason, to shake us out, to keep us greedy, to keep us fearful, all these different objectives. That's what it's really telling you. Now, when you're able to be aware and identify both of these and combine them, it's just like your brain. You can then make a rational decision, because now you're able to object what it is that it's really telling you based off of what it really is, right? And then now you make the best decision going forward. And that's honestly, ultimately, the best way you can make a decision in these markets, is seeing what is it really telling you, and then project what you want it to tell you based off of what, you know, we're going to talk about later in terms of trends, in terms of uh, indicators, in terms of all these different patterns and things that you're able to identify in terms of structure, right? Not the depth of it, not the psychology of it, but using also the depth and the psychology to conform it with the technical side of things and make a rational decision. So does anybody have any questions on that? Does anybody have any correlations or type of interpretations that, you know, maybe you guys saw it and made it a little bit more easier for you guys to understand? Or is everyone pretty concrete on that idea of understanding what these candlesticks are really telling you, right? Not what are we telling it that it's telling us, but do you guys understand that, you know, these candles are telling us something and we need to see that for what it really is? Y'all, do y'all understand that?
Yeah, 100%.
Powerful, powerful. Going into that transition, right, that we just talked about is, okay, we understand that there's people, right, in these markets, but not in the markets. I'm talking about in the candles, right? And now y'all get that. Y'all can see that because y'all are like, all right, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You know, it's concrete, it's evident, right? Now I'm about to give you guys a bigger, clearer direction and indication of how to see that. Human nature, right? We are a species of habit. That's who we are as humans, right? You every person that I know has similar habits that they do that they just subconsciously don't think about. You think about people, right? They go to sleep and they lay down on the same side of their bed, or they sleep, you know, only on the right side of their body. You know what I'm saying? People just have that habit, or they wake up and they comb their hair and they fix their hair in a certain way, and that's how they have it for the most, you know, part of their entire life, basically, right? And all these habits, they are patterns. You see what I'm saying? Patterns that you can then identify, patterns that you can then see, patterns that are obvious in these markets. Because again, these are people. And what do people do? People just move in the same patternized way. And as a trader, if you're able to understand that psychology of people, you are then able to understand patterns and how they work in these markets. Patterns that I want to really talk about, and is one of the biggest ones, honestly, that a lot of traders are looking at, because it has so much psychology in it, right? Is, and I'm pretty sure you guys have heard it. It's an H and S, which is also the head and shoulders. So I'm gonna take off the VWAP. I'm gonna take off this strategy that I'm actually testing out. It will be available for all of our members. I'm even gonna drop it for the free chat members. It's a pretty. I'm still, you know, just back testing it, making sure that everything is just working and it's pretty accurate, right? You know, here we might have actually, here we took a win, right? Because you longed it here, you were down some, but eventually you came up, and I mean it was a small profit, but it's just a small strategy, as you guys can see. It's not 100%. Okay, yeah, this is just another thing that I'll get into in depth, but essentially what I wanted to talk about was the head and shoulders, right? And which I call the pattern of a true anatomy, because you think about it, a head and shoulders is a human. You know what I'm saying? You have you have the shoulder, then you have the head, and then you have the other shoulder, and that's a person. I mean, it kind of looks like Patrick, right, when you think about it, but it's just the psychology in terms of how humans think and how humans react to thoughts and then emotions, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys, right? That's essentially what it looks like. It's not always going to be picture perfect. This is just a reversal pattern, right? So when we have a huge run up, right? Something that just keeps going up and just keeps going up and just keeps moving up and moving up and moving up. Essentially, we have this pattern form where it's going to tell us that, hey, this is about to reverse. This is about to come to the downside, right? If we ever see a head and shoulders play, a head and shoulders pattern, just know that, hey, we might be ready for a reversal, because that's exactly what a head and shoulders is telling us, right? And then I'm about to go deep into the human psychology of it. If you were to just look at it like this, right, it's a little difficult to really, as a beginner, to see and identify. However, once you really train your eye and you continuously go and you find them and you try to just apply it, I promise you, you will be able to scope them out without even drawing it. You will be able to see when to even execute without drawing it. You know what I'm saying? But it all just comes with practice. And I know a lot of you guys have heard that saying, it's like, uh, practice makes perfect, but that's a bunch of bullshit. I'm gonna tell y'all, because it's not about the practice, right, that you put in. It's about the diligence. It's about the perseverance. It's about the persistence. It's about perfect practice makes perfect. If you just practice, you cannot expect a perfect result. I promise you that. You have to practice perfectly to expect a perfect outcome. So TradingView has these really nice tools that you can just use. And right here, they have this head and shoulders that will easily just draw it out for you. So as you guys can see, right here, we have the left shoulder. Boom, right? Boom. This is the lower point. Then we have the head, right? The head obviously is higher than the shoulders. Then, so as you guys can see, right, the highest point being around here in this area, and then we have the shoulder in this area, right? So now the way to trade this specific pattern is that's coming back to thinking in terms of what the investors are feeling and thinking, right? So I'm going to explain this to you. Here, we have this initial run up, right? Then we come right back down. Then again, we take off, because in this area, in what is it right here, the 19th of September, right? You backtrack to look at the 10th, right? So in roughly around a week, all right, we ran up, but in a week we came right back down. So we were in the same place that we were a week ago. And I promise you, investors were thinking, so why are we back here when we were here last week? We shouldn't be in the same spot that we were last week. So what happens? Boom, we have this huge run up, right? But it's choppy. It kind of doesn't really look that confident. Again, think about it. These are people, right? They're not that confident. So you see this kind of area of just hanging around, and then more red, but essentially you have a long green, but then tiny greens, and then a bigger red, and then to the point where you have this large green candle. Then we have the sell-off. Look at how large the candles are here in correlation to these candles. These red candles are long, and while in retrospect, these candles aren't that really big, right? You think about it again in terms of people. Okay, there's more people selling than there were people buying. You see what I'm saying? And then there's more, right, in just a continuation. Whereas this one, it was kind of choppy, right? We gapped. Then it would just kind of settle. Then we gapped. Then it would just come down. Then it exponentially grew. But here we had a huge sell-off. So right off the back, right, you can kind of identify that, hey, in the coming weeks, right? And look, in the coming weeks, we're going to be choppy, because there was a huge sell-off. However, people on this side were still thinking, we're right, we're right, we're right. Then once we come back down to this area, then we start to think, people start to think, okay, why are we back at the same area that we were almost, a whole month ago, right? Why are we back here? And people start to think, okay, are we right here, or are we wrong here? But I promise you, the way that this shaped out to play out is people thought, hey, I'm right. I'm right. they were wrong. So here we go up again, right? And then we have this run up, but then again, we have obviously this sell down. People in this area here were saying, nah, if we're back here where we were when we thought we were right, we might be wrong now. And I promise you, that's what everybody was thinking. We're wrong. And the way to trade a head and shoulders pattern is you have to wait for the breakout, right? You have to wait for the shoulder line, right, to break and then try to come right back up to retest it and watch it just fall. Because I promise you, watch this. So here in this area, right, we had this is the lowest point of our shoulder. As you guys can see, price, right, it went up again, but then it came right back down. It looked like it retested it here, but then this is essentially the retest. The retest is the point of no return, because if it doesn't come over this point, if it doesn't try to get back over the pattern of the head and the shoulders, if it cannot come back up in this area, then again, it's a no-go. All hands off, right? We gotta go. We gotta sell it. And obviously, you can see that it didn't come up. It didn't break this. It didn't break the shoulder. It didn't want to stay up here because, again, people psychologically started to think we're wrong. Because why are we still in the same space that we were a month ago? And that's what people started to really, have that fear, that doubt, right? And obviously, you can see the large red candles in comparison to the green, right? The green choppy, the green tiny. There's not enough volume. There's not enough momentum in these candles. Whereas look at the momentum and volume on the selling side, right? They're a lot more larger than they are for the greens. So again, we came, we broke down, we retested, we hit this area of resistance, and now we're coming to the downside. And as you guys can see, look at that. It just continued to melt, right? Because that was that reversal. That was that down. We're coming down. We're coming down. We're coming down. We're coming down. Continuously just dropping, right? Until eventually we hit a point of consolidation. And then eventually, right, then we start to kind of maneuver on our way up again. Because then people started to think, okay, we're in 2019. Why is it this low? And people obviously started to buy up, right? That is, again, the reversal. Because as you guys can see on this side, we had, right, consolidation, with a dip, people bought it up, but then eventually the trend started to move upwards, right? You could see that the trend began to just continuously move up, right? It started to follow this trend, right? When you were able to see the trend reverse, we had a pattern. We had a lot of people doubting, a lot of people just stuck, a lot of people psychologically worn out, thinking, hey, I'm right. And then finalizing that concept and that energy and that emotion that, hey, no, I'm wrong. We should get out. And that's exactly what happened. Then, that there's that next attempt. Boom, we break right back down and we continue that downtrend, So that's a perfect head and shoulders to show you that reversal, right? So if you ever see a head and shoulders, one, you can trade it, or two, you could just use it to, give you a confirmation that, hey, the sentiment and the trend of this specific stock is going to change. I should be on the lookout for anything, that I'm looking to do. Because you never want to sell in a market that's trending up, right? And you never want to buy in a market that's going down. You see what I'm saying? So being able to identify these patterns will give you a clear indication of, hey, do I at any point, really want to buy in a downtrend? No, right? Because now you were able to identify that, hey, this is a downtrend. I should be looking for any opportunity of a bounce to short it, right? For a bounce to short it, bounce, short it. You see what I'm saying? Until you get to a point where now the sentiment has changed and now we're going up. Now we're looking for the dips to buy it, right? Dips to buy it, dips, and so forth and so forth. So just how you're able to identify a reversal on to the downside from a head and shoulders, you can also identify one from the to the upside, right? So it's called an inverse head and shoulders, and essentially what it is if market is just going down, 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 continuously just going down, down, coming down, and then we have we have the pattern form. We have a head and shoulders, but it's inverse, right? Then that's a signal that, hey, we're coming up, right? So again, it doesn't always have to be picture perfect, but you always want for that trend to break and for it to retest. Now, that just gives you an indication that, hey, people are starting to settle and people are starting to see that this might be the bottom. Let's see if we can enter and get a low and possibly reverse the trend, right? So now I'm going to show you guys, but on the chart. And again, it doesn't always have to be perfect. However, this is one that we can see very nicely and clearly. I mean, it's not clear, right? Because let me just take everything off so you guys can kind of, right? Now that you guys saw the other one, I'm pretty sure you guys can kind of see this one, right? Because again, it just takes that one to really give you the guidance and to be able to see it and understand it. We have our shoulder here. We have this. We come down to the head, come up. We draw that other shoulder. And then this is at a point where we can draw a horizontal line to watch this area here, which is, you could probably draw one there if you wanted to also. But essentially, you want to look at it as, okay, here we have our left shoulder, right? And remember, what did I tell you guys? What we're waiting for is we're waiting for price. We're waiting for price to break it, right? Because we came down, and then we came right back up, but then we had a meltdown to the downside. And this volume and this momentum and these candles honestly would have shooken anybody out. But on the upside, right, we had a gap up, and then we just continued to move up. But eventually, we hit a resistance. Then we came right back down. Then, investors were thinking, why are we here in 2020 when we were in the same spot, at the beginning of or in the middle of March, right? Now that a new iPhone just came out, or now that, they just dropped the new series of headphones, why are we still in the same spot that we were a month ago? So then you start to understand that investors begin to see that also, and they're able to identify that, hey, we're wrong, right? And we need to just keep moving up because they were right. They were right on this side. So we're going to continue to move up. And obviously, as you guys can see, the shoulder breaks, right? This could have been a retest. It could have been a buy area in this area if you ever want to execute, right? And then now you're up for the to the upside. And again, as you guys can see, it just continued to move up, right? So you wait for that break, you wait for the retest. This could have also been another buying opportunity. If you would have missed this, you could have waited for this to come right back down to your buying area off of the break, off of the off of the retest. Come retest it as support. Boom, we're coming to the upside. And as you guys can see, look at that. Look at the potential on the upside. What did I say an inverse head and shoulders was? It was a clear indication that we're going up because as you guys can see, we had a huge meltdown, right? We just kept going down, 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 down. And then the psychology broke into play. Being able to identify this helped us to project what was going to happen, right? The reversal. So that's exactly what happened, right? We just came right back up. We retested this previous shoulder and off we go to the races, right? And then again, in an uptrend, what are you looking to do? You're looking to buy because if you're going up, you're looking to buy. If you're going down, you're looking to short it, right? So, does anybody have any questions in terms of reversal patterns or head and shoulder patterns or any of that? It's a pretty powerful thing to really understand and to grasp, right? Because one thing is knowing, and another thing is being aware, right? You have to use both, because if you're not if you don't really know, then you're not aware. But if you know, then you only really just know. But if you know and you're able to apply, then you're aware. And that's with everything. You guys can use that, and just everything that we talked about today from the beginning, right, to the end, is don't overcomplicate anything, right? You can use that for your trading style. You can use that for your trading strategy. If you only want to trade head and shoulder patterns, by all means, right? However, this is just a confirmation. This is just one variable that you can use for your trading strategy to allow you to make that calculated decision, right? So that's what I really wanted to go over with you guys. Um, I didn't want to take too much of you guys' time. I really value you guys' time. And I know it's Sunday. I know some of you guys have work tomorrow. So I wanted y'all to catch up on y'all sleep, because it's a very important thing. I hope you guys learned something. And just know that you are now a step closer to being ready for war, right? You always want to be prepared. This is a game of chess, and you always want to be 10 steps ahead of everyone, because they're not your competition. The only competition is within yourself. You're the only one that's competing within yourself. You don't get better if you don't push yourself, if you don't practice perfectly, if you don't have that consistency, if you just get stuck in the patterns, right? Be aware of the patterns. Be aware that you're in a box. Get out of it. Think outside the box, right? Stop being in a pattern. Do things differently. Find a different way. There's multiple ways of doing one thing. I promise you. It's even evident in math, right? 3 times 4, right, is 12. And so is 2 times 6. There's 2 different ways to find an outcome. I promise you.
Facts.
So always try to find different ways that you can have to make a better result. And even if it's the same result, just do it differently, just so you could see which way is better. Because if you never do it, if you never try it, you'll never know. But I hope you guys learned something. I appreciate understanding the psychology behind it, because trading is 20% technicals, 80% mental. And if you don't have the mental side of things, if you can't really focus on what it's really telling you, then the longevity is kind of blurry, right? You can't really see the end result, because you can't really see what it's really telling you. And again, that's just being aware.